acceptance. Diversity is acceptance.
Diversity is life.
Diversity is understanding.
Diversity is priceless.
Acceptance.
All people working together.
Infinite.
Unity. Most definitely unity.
Women. WOMEN. Y'all, that is 5 letters to describe she, her, you, us, warriors, orators, masters of our craft, engineers of the future. Hell, we are nobodies. Push over. I am woman. Hear me roar. Watch me soar above heights people never thought I could reach. Oh, but there is no ceiling or peak when you are fierce, fiery, and chic. Ladies, speak your truth and let your actions be proof, girl, that you are a woman. All that is gorgeous and graceful, girl, you got guts. So go on, show them what you're working with. And by that, ladies, I mean work. Slay your to-do list with sass. May your emails be filled with personality and pizzazz. And may that annoying person who sits next to you be overwhelmed by the passion you have for what you do. Girl, you are more than employee ID 134676, so don't you dare settle for it. See, every thread in the fabric of your life is a square in the quilt of society. So don't you dare wither under pressure. Honey, may your fibers be stronger than ever. Give them nothing but net, ladies, and net work, because you have worth. And it's not determined by any percentage or price tag. Girl, we are brown paper and Gucci bag. We are beauty shop jewelry, honey. We are Tiffany green. We don't just envision a product, honey. We go build the machine. We are queens. Infiltrating companies with confidence, and our abstract ideas are coupled with common sense. Ladies, don't you dare lay back. Level up. We are tough by ourselves, but together we cannot be touched. So whenever one woman gets weak and you hear her trumpet sound, ladies, let's gather around her and help her adjust her crown. Woo!
Good morning, everyone. How powerful was that? I want to make sure that I remain professional here, but I feel like I need to adjust my crown before I do this introduction. Woo! If you don't feel empowered, whether you're a woman, a man, however you identify, I hope that those words from Lady Caress really touched and impacted you, because I am ready for this session today. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Tondra Richardson. I am the Director of Student Diversity and Inclusion at the University of Phoenix and a proud DLA board member. This year, I have had the privilege of serving as the new DLA Education Committee Chair. My committee and I are excited about bringing you innovative and forward-thinking DEI content and subject matter experts that will help impart change and move the needle on systemic racism. This is the year we raise our collective voices. Wow. Who isn't ready to raise their voice after that? I am actually shaking. I've heard that before, but I am actually shaking. I don't know if it's this week and the empowerment that I feel as a woman this particular week, a woman of color this week. Okay, let me get through this introduction. So we are excited about bringing you this series. This year, we raise our collective voices loud enough to drown out the hate. The time is now to have brave conversations that can turn stumbling blocks into stepping stones. This month's workshop is in celebration of Women's History Month, and we are proud of the amazing women we get to highlight. Our panel of experts will share authentic stories of their discussion, led by our very own Executive Director, Joanna Molina. Now, before I introduce Joanna and have her kick off today's program, allow me the opportunity to acknowledge our land. So I want to make sure that I'm pronouncing these correctly, and I do this disclaimer each time. I want to acknowledge and identify the Indigenous peoples, nations, and histories within our area. We acknowledge the Akimel, Udham, Pipash, and Yavapai. We acknowledge these people, their ancestors, their descendants, and the land itself. I'd now like to introduce you to today's webinar moderator, our very own Joanna Molina.
Yay, thank you, Tandra. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning. I am the same way, Tandra. I have heard that piece. I have been part of its recording, and I love Lady Caress, but every time I hear it, I just find that I sit a little taller, right? I do adjust my crown. And someone said it in the chat as I was reading this is such a historic week for us, and it is just glorious. And so good morning to all of you, and welcome to Audacious Leadership. Women leading with grit and grace. Tandra, I am so thrilled at your leadership role over the Education Committee. And it's produced such wonderful, wonderful webinars, including today's Brave Conversation. This is our third webinar of the year. I can't already believe it's March, right? And these particular series really amplify the voices around various diversity, equity, and inclusion topics. And this month, we're going to be honoring three amazing women who are really leading bravely, tenaciously, and creating success on their terms. Before we begin, I just want to remind everyone that here at DLA, we are a community space. And as such, we want to ensure that all of our programs and events are open and inviting, but most importantly, respectful and accessible to all. So at this time, I'd love to introduce you and invite onto the screen Dr. Brent Scholar. And you saw it earlier, but I would love for him just to share our webinar engagement rules before we begin. So Brent, could you share those with us?
I can, and good morning, everybody. Welcome again to our March Brave Conversation. As Joanna said, we want to make sure that we are all here in this safe space to explore, to hear each other's voices, right? Hear the diverse voices that are out there. But please remember that everyone here has a duty here at DLA to keep this space safe and positive and productive. Listen actively as we go through and be open to hear the full spectrum of perspectives. Commit to fostering greater empathy. Let's try to relinquish the need to be right. Ask questions and seek clarification for understanding. Be respectful to the presenter and all of the attendees. No one or two individuals should dominate a discussion. Approach each other with kindness and love. And as a community space, we do, DLA, reserve the right to remove you from the discussion if you become disruptive. In addition, in order to make this here for everybody, we have our American Sign Language translation being provided by Equal Access Services. Our interpreters today are Heather Ivy and Sonia Velasquez, so thank you very much. And a very special thank you to Mr. Dave Wallenhop, who makes this possible from Equal Access Services. This presentation is also being recorded, and that by entering this event and staying here, participants are consenting to be recorded and for the recording presentation to be shared on Diversity Leadership Alliance's webpage, YouTube channel, and other professional media. We value all your time. So if you need to leave early, please save this link that Jeff will be putting into our chat right now so that you can provide us your survey ideas for the future and how today went. And with that, Joanna, back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Brent. We are so grateful for your production leadership as well. We all look good up here, right? We're just like, but Brent is really back there making us all kind of position well. And we are so grateful for that, Brent. Thank you for your continuous hard work around these webinars. So this Women's History Month, Diversity Leadership Alliance presents an open and honest conversation with some amazing women who are all kind of carving their own paths and creating success on their own terms. Our diverse panel of women will share their personal narratives and lived life experiences, challenging you to begin to lead audaciously with a little bit of bravery and a little bit of tenacity. Our panelists will share lessons learned from their own career paths and how they cultivate a culture of trust and advocacy. They will explore what it means to be an ally and mentor to other women and how you can become a co-conspirator for social justice, helping to create room for all women to lead authentically and to lead with a little bit of grit and a little bit of grace. So grit and grace are going to be our words as we go through today's session. You can walk away expecting to get some additional tools, information, and resources to learn how to transform activism for women in leadership within your organization. So allow me, if you would, to introduce you to today's esteemed panel of women. First up, we have Kate Morris. And Kate is joining KPNX from KTVB, which is the NBC affiliate in Boise, Idaho, where she served as president and general manager, responsible for leading Idaho's #1 news organization. Morris was named president and general manager in 2018 after previously serving 7 years as executive news director. She joined the station in 2006 and during her tenure at the station, participated in the TEGNA Executive Leadership Program. Kate's exceptional leadership, her passion for storytelling, excuse me, and her focus on community engagement and her previous experience in Phoenix is what makes her the perfect choice for KPNX. With her focus on nurturing talent, creating this one team culture of collaboration, she will continue to bring the very best news and information to the greater Phoenix area. Kate is a graduate of Arizona State University, go Sun Devils, and a lifelong Cardinals fan. And Kate and her family are now enjoying their return to the Phoenix area. Kate currently serves as the general manager and president of KPNX here, Channel 12. So Kate, good morning to you. That's excellent. I'll move on to our next one and then I'll have them unmute themselves when we get ready to discuss. So we've got another Joanna, spelled a bit more interesting than my name, but Joanna Molina is the newly named Immunization Equity Projects Manager, serving also as the Spanish-speaking Public Information Officer for the Maricopa County Department of Public Health. Before joining public health, she worked at Univision, Arizona, as an anchor and reporter for several years. Her extensive media experience in both print, radio, and television in the Spanish market has allowed her to communicate in an effective way to the largest minority in Arizona, our Hispanic community. One of her main roles is to break barriers and educate vulnerable populations about public health programs and partner with community-based organizations and media for emergencies such as the COVID-19 pandemic and the H1N1 flu pandemic in 2009. She is a proud graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication with a minor in Spanish and serves on several boards, including the Arizona Latino Media Association. Good morning to you, Joanna.
Good morning, everybody.
Excellent. And last but most certainly not least is Tram Mai. Tram anchors and reports across all 12 news shows and platforms. She is a graduate of UCLA where she majored in communications with a minor in Asian American studies. Tram believes that the most rewarding part of her job is making a difference in people's lives. From coverage of the devastating hurricanes in Florida to the historic Red for Ed teacher walkout in Arizona, Tram has covered some of the biggest news stories of our time. Tram is also a mother to 7-year-old twins, and she and her husband are business owners and own Press Coffee. If you've never been, you should, with several locations in Phoenix, Tempe, and the Scottsdale areas. Tram, my friend, good morning to you.
Good morning. Great to be here. Thank you, Joanna.
You're welcome. Excellent. So yeah, like no pressure. I'm the only non-media person, right? With a panel full of dynamic media women. So yeah, no pressure at all. I'm over here going, get it right, Joanna, get it right. I am so delighted to have all of you here. And I just want you to know that we do have some students that are journalism major joining us from ASU. So shout out to our Walter Cronkite students that are here. Thank you so much to Allison O2, who is new over there and was helping to position this webinar for our students there. I am so grateful to all of you for joining us this morning and looking forward to your perspectives and just sharing your lived narrative with today's audience. Before we begin, for my audience that are on with us, I would love to ask you a question. In the seats that you sit in your organizations, I would love to know if you would just answer the quick audience poll. Are there a good number of women represented in leadership roles within your organizations? Simple yes or no. I just kind of want to see what that number is looking like. Are there a good number of women represented in leadership roles within your organization? Yes or no? So I'll wait till they answer that and tee up our first kind of series of questions. So do we have some answers coming in, Brent? Do we know yet?
We do.
Good.
We do. We have about, let's see, 82% to 18%. We're nearing about 77% participation. We'll give it about, we'll say a few more seconds, and then we'll stop and share. All right, we're at 80% right now, so we'll end the poll, and here are the results.
Wonderful, excellent. So 80% of you say there are a good number of women represented in leadership roles within your organization. 20 of you say no, that's wonderful. But I always say that should be 100%. That poll should always come back 100%. There are a good number of women represented, because I just think that we have such a powerful opportunity to be able to just represent across all roles. When we start today's discussion, I want to just tee up kind of our first question for the women that we have. So early in your career, right, as you were kind of navigating, how did you start? How did you start in your role? How did you move through your role that you have currently? And in that early career, what is something you wish someone would have told you early on your journey? Kate, we're going to start with you.
Okay, so you want me to talk a little bit about my journey first, right?
Yes, please.
Okay,
I would love it.
I started working in local news when I was 16 years old, believe it or not. I started producing local news right out of high school. So I'd spend my weekends at the TV station down the street from my parents' house, shadowing reporters, but I worked there part-time. So when I wasn't in high school, I was working, or if I wasn't running track, I was working at the TV station. And then I would spend my spare time shadowing reporters on the weekends, helping write stories. So as soon as I graduated from high school, they offered me a job producing the 6 o'clock news. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no life experience. It was definitely drinking from a fire hose. Felt very lost in that role. But what do? We figure it out, right? We figure out how do we excel and learn as fast as we can, so we fail fast and learn quickly. I wanted to go to college, so I stayed at Boise State for my freshman year so that I could continue producing at the TV station in Boise, Idaho, where I'm from. And then I transferred to Arizona State and got a job as a producer at Fox 10, where I was definitely out of my league, but worked really hard to establish myself as a go-to talent and writer and producer at that station, and quickly moved up, even though I was a full-time college student. And I became a morning show producer there. So I went from a writer to a junior producer to a morning show producer in a short amount of time. And then after I graduated from Arizona State, I moved back to Boise, where I became an executive producer and then news director. and then general manager of that station there in Boise before I came back to Arizona to be the general manager here at KPNX 12 News. What's interesting about that trajectory is that I would work really hard and I would support my supervisors, and people would often say, you know, you could do that job. But when it came time for those positions to open up and for me to apply, I would have a lot of self-doubt. So I would struggle with confidence throughout that interview process, thinking that I was too young, that I wasn't worthy, that someone was smarter or better and more qualified to take that position. And I'm just so thankful and grateful that I had a really good network of support in my life, whether it was former mentors and former managers, really good friends and colleagues that I had worked with, who I could call and they could build my confidence back up and empower me to know that it was a position that I could excel at and do a great job. But if I didn't have that, there could have been I could have missed some serious opportunities that led me to where I am today. And so I think that's what's so important, is that you do have mentors, but not just mentors, but really close confidants. Women in particular, supporting women is huge. I've had some really great women who I've worked with in my career who I can call when an opportunity comes up or when I'm struggling with an issue or a problem. That's just been monumental for me, especially in those moments where I really struggle with imposter syndrome or self-esteem or self-confidence issues, because we all struggle with those throughout our career. We just don't talk about them very often.
Kate, you are spot on with that. I love that you said, just figure it out. We are the masters of that, right? We're like, don't know how to do that? Well, we'll figure it out, right? And we just kind of jump in feet first and take the reins. And I love your comments about, I call it my tribe, you know, my tribe of women. And it is predominantly for me also women that are holding up the sky as I try to figure stuff out, you know, because there's so much that we do. And I saw someone say, thank you for the raw honesty. And it's true. We all have that imposter syndrome. I had someone say to me the other day, you must never be in a bad mood. You know, they're like, every single time I see you, you just must never be in a bad mood. I'm like, oh, you would be surprised. You would be surprised, you know, the level of anxiety that even I feel sometimes doing things that I love doing, that I know how to do. But that little imposter voice just sneaks in and go, who do you think you are? You know what I mean? You don't belong at this table. And then I kind of shoo her away and I lock her up and I say, well, we're just gonna fake it then until I make it, because I'm sitting at the table anyway. So that's something that's really important. So I love that you talk about just figuring out. Joanna, I would love to bring you in here. If you could just kind of share your career and your trajectory, and also share with us kind of, you know, something that you know, someone told you early in your career journey that you could share with the audience today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. What a great panel. I mean, I'm excited to hear the stories and share some of my stories as well and hear from the attendees. So thank you for having me today. And yes, one of the reasons, believe it or not, I was very shy. So that's what made me the drive to go and study communications and journalism and broadcasting. I needed to get out of my shell. I needed to become more, you know, I knew that I needed to do it in order for me to succeed, because I was very, very shy. And coming from a culture, when I came to the US, I was 15 years old. I didn't speak a word of English. So I came into high school not knowing English at all. I had good grades, thank God. I was a good student. I had the drive to study, but my focus was more on becoming acquainted with the culture and getting the language. So my high school, you know, years, that's what I focus on. But I'm very grateful for the teachers that along the way, you know, they really helped me. They really focused. They even stayed with me after school. They found some tutors for me. So that was key. But I'm going to mention a key word for me is the drive. I wanted to do it, because no one is going to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. Yeah. So I had the drive to do it because I didn't want to be left out. I wanted to be part of the culture. I wanted to learn. I needed to grow. So that was one of the things that really drive me to focus and get out of my shell and put myself out there. So I went into communications for that reason, and also because I wanted to educate the community. I'm not the only one. I'm only one of many feeling the same way. So I needed to bring the education, the resources to the community. things that matter to the Latino communities that maybe are first time, new generations, people just coming to live in the US, making a new life. So the topics that we were really interested in were immigration, education, healthcare. So I wanted to do that part of kind of teaching the people how to walk the system. Once you're here, this is how you do it. How you find healthcare, how you go to college. This is how you find tutors. This is how you find your way to become a legal resident or become a citizen in the US. So that's what was my driving force to get to the level that I am today. So I was working for Univision. I also worked for print. I worked for Telemundo at the very beginning. I worked for radio. That was key for me at the very beginning. When I was in college, I worked in radio, and I did a lot of this information to give the information to the community. After that, I went to TV, and I was writing at the same time. So I'm always focused on the community. Always focused on what I'm going through, how can this help someone else? How can make someone else's better life, because we struggle every day. So if to go back to the question, if someone would have told me something early in my career, what would the journey look like? I think that someone would have told me, you can do it. Have faith. You're able to do it. I had to drive, but I didn't know. I had to fake it until I was kind of making it, right? And I'm still in that position today. So after many years in journalism and broadcasting, I became a mom. And then I decided that I needed to be doing the work that I love, continuing forming and educating the community, but a different level. So that's what landed me a job in health, Maricopa County Public Health, and bringing the resources to the communities that are struggling. The vulnerable populations, not only Latinos, but all different communities, because of lack of transportation, language barriers, because they don't know how to maneuver the system, so finding ways to bring resources to the community has always been a passion of mine. So that would be something that teachers at the beginning, and then telling me, you can do it, have faith, you're going to make it, you're going to make it. I'm still trying to fake it until I make it, honestly.
Well, sister, you are faking it well then, because I got to tell you, I'm so pleased with just kind of the things that you've done. And to hear that you were shy, I don't believe it. That's, and what a great way, talk about baptism by fire, right? Oh, I'm shy. I'll be in the media, where everyone can see me and I'm just, at the forefront. So that's amazing. But you talk about the idea of drive. And I think for every one of the women that are here, that is really what pushes us. Many of us are immigrants and we didn't see ourselves. We didn't see ourselves on television. We didn't see ourselves, in these leadership roles. So we had to create that. We had to create that drive kind of internally. And now you all are the impetus, the driving force for a lot of other people looking at you going, oh, a Tram Mai. I relate, I look like her, she looks like me, and that's really powerful. So Tram, I want to bring you in now to just talk a little bit about kind of your driving force, what led you to where you are now, and just something early in your career that someone told you that had an impact and made an impact on where you are today.
I have to say, first of all, my gosh, I love these stories because, everybody sees us on the outside, that we look so put together, that we have our things in order, that everything's perfect, right? When really just the drive, that road to success is filled with so many pitfalls, and it wasn't always perfect. And it's so humbling. It's so great to hear that you're not alone. But anyways, when you talk about that drive and having that immigrant background, I can 1000% relate, because I wasn't born in the US. I was born back in 1974 in Vietnam. And a year later, my family had to flee because of the war. So we were the last plane out. And, my parents had to start all over in their 30s. New country. Luckily, they spoke the language. But seeing my parents over the years work 2 to 3 jobs just to make ends meet. And the only thing they wanted was to come to the US so that their kids could have a better education. I mean, it's almost so cliche for every immigrant story, but it's so true. It's all about the children. that is their road to the family success. So anyways, in seeing that my family worked so hard, that drive was just inherent in me, just watching them. So I was a kid, I mean, probably, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years old. And every day I would come home and the news would be on Channel 7 Eyewitness News out of LA. And it was just part of the background. Right. And my mom, I still remember, my mom would say, wouldn't it be so exciting to be a reporter? And you could travel everywhere, you could go places, and you could ride in the news helicopter. And to this day, I've never ridden in a news helicopter.
Okay, we've got to make that happen.
I mean, I know there are liability issues, so it's okay. I've let that go. But, and so the seed was just planted. And, I would just grow up watching these anchors and reporters, my childhood stars, right? And that always stayed with me. And I thought, why not? And she was like, why not? And taking a step back, I would think, oh my gosh, I'm a refugee living the American dream. Who would have thought? But my mom, who is also my hero, made it possible because she instilled that in me in such a young age, and she believed in me. And to this day, she is my worst critic because she will still text me during the 4 o'clock show, showing pictures and asking me, your lipstick's too light. Where are your lips? I mean, she, what's going on with your hair? Like, but anyways, I digress. So anyways, fast forward, now I'm, into college and at UCLA. And the big thing, and this is what I tell a lot of young people, do an internship. That is your foot in the door. I did mine as a junior, which is just about right, because then you've got like 2 years left before you graduate. So I did a number of internships, even took the bus to one of them. And that's, how hungry I was. But I landed in my all-time dream station, which was KABC, the station that I grew up watching. And I worked first of all, I started as an intern, not getting paid, but that was okay. I mean, oh my gosh, it was like, wow, I'm surrounded by the people I love. And then by stroke of luck and just working so hard and proving myself, that they were opening apprentice positions, which is basically like a production assistant. They were starting a brand new weekend morning show, and they needed 2 apprentices, and there were at least 6 of us. So thank goodness I got the job, and it paid really well. I mean, as a college student, it was like, wow. And then from there, you know what? I got my tape together, because back then it was on VHS, and I'm sure a lot of college students aren't familiar with VHS, but it was a thing back in the day. And I sent my tape out. I had 75 tapes, and I sent it out from Hawaii to New York. I mean, granted, that was total pipe dreams, thinking that I could possibly out of college get a job in New York. But I thought, why not? I don't know their situation, right? I mean, it's like, let's just go for it. Right. And I got my first start out of it was a Fox startup, brand new station out of Orlando. I got there in January. Our very first show hit the air in March. And so I worked there up until they decided to close down the bureau. So my very first job, I got laid off. That was a lot of fun. I mean, dagger to the heart. Wow, I felt like a failure, but you know what? It is what it is. They closed the bureau. Second job I got was still out of Orlando, and it was at another bureau in Volusia County, which is Daytona Beach, and worked there for almost a year, and then got my tape out, went to Columbus, Ohio, worked as a reporter there. And I never thought that I could hit the desk. You talk about that self-doubt and having those insecurities. No way. I just worked my butt off as a reporter, and that's all that I had in mind. I just wanted to get back to LA. I wanted to go home. And my managers, again, it takes skill, but also luck. The stars aligned and they were like, you know what? We're going to give you a shot filling in for the noon show. And I was so nervous. I was like, oh my God. I just wanted the ground to swallow me up. I was so incredibly nervous, but I was like, I'm going to do this. I'll do my best. If I totally fail, I'll just never be on the desk again, but we're going to do it because they gave me a shot. They believed in me. And that's another thing too. I've been blessed with people who have believed in me when I did not believe in myself. And so I did it. And then next thing you know, fast forward, they made me a weekend anchor in Columbus. Once again, end of the contract, I sent my tape all over the place and landed a job in Phoenix, Arizona. I thought I'd be here for 3 years, go back to LA. And I just celebrated my 19th anniversary in January. So I'm still here. I've got kids now. My husband has a business. I mean, I count my blessings truly every day. I really do.
That's so wonderful. You all don't know how glorious this is, because I think oftentimes people see our representatives, right? They see kind of but to know that it was a journey, and your journey, Tram, very similar to my immigrant parents. God bless them. My mom, who passed a few years ago, was the same way. As good as I thought I was, I'd be at something, speaking, and she'd go, the lipstick is too much. I don't like the lipstick. And I'm like, seriously, did you hear a word I said? Like, did you hear my really great speech? And she's like, yeah, but it was just too much for me. I couldn't get over. And I'm like, my biggest critic. So you want to talk about, I used to call my mom my humbling factor. Just when you thought, man, I am it. My mom's like, yeah, no, not quite. Like, let's just bring you down a notch, my dear. And it was great. But, we talk about it being about the children. I remember being at an event once and heard Michelle Obama say this. There's a village in Africa where whenever anyone arrives, the first thing they ask is, how are the children? Mm-hmm. Not what's everyone doing, because the health of the children, right? And I think that's why our immigrant parents had such a profound kind of connection to that. The health of the children is indicative of the health of the community. So how are the children? Are they excelling? Are they healthy? Do they eat well? Do they get rest? Do they get help? Things like that. And that was so profound when she said that, because it really resonated with me, because I had, a mom who had a master's degree in civil engineering, but couldn't get a job in engineering when she came here because she was an immigrant. So what did she do? She worked at Fry's at the grocery store. Listen, it's about my children. I don't need anyone to know that I'm this professional engineer. I needed to work because that's what I needed to do. And that to me was the biggest lesson in my life of humility. Can you do something in the short term for long-term goals? And put aside ego to get it done. So that was very profound for me. And I'm so grateful to her for just showing me what it looks like, how you demonstrate, right, drive and put ego aside to get it done. So thank you so much for sharing that with me. I would love to, I'm gonna actually skip over one question and go to the one that I think is very important for all of us. I heard everyone mention, children, so that's a big part of us. That's a big part of our identities, right? And those intersections, I find can be difficult sometimes. The one overlay we have is because when you're a mom, especially when your children are younger, they don't care that you're on the news. They don't care that all these people are, but they could really care less. Like, that is so far from what they need from you. I just remember being at my son's thing. I had come from something. I was in this gorgeous suit, and my son was like, Mom, I have to go up. My nose is running. He was like 5. And I was like, no. And so inside of my jacket, my very expensive jacket, wiped his little nose because he had to go up. He didn't care. Like, lady, I don't care who you are. Like, I've got a need here. And right now it's my nose. And I just laughed because I thought, yeah, that's what you have to do. I love reading. I saw Irene mention the idea of being prepared and how preparedness meeting opportunity. And so that's something I'm hearing from all of you is just do the work, push yourself forward, have the drive, be prepared, because you never know where the opportunity comes from. So Kate, I want to go back to you and pull you in. How do you balance career you know, being GM of a station, your personal life, so time for just Kate that doesn't involve little people, and also things that you're passionate about. How do you balance those things?
Sure. I do want to call out this comment from Irene, who says preparedness meets opportunity, not luck. And I will say for Tram, she's a phenomenal storyteller. So I know when they gave her that opportunity to anchor that first time, she was absolutely prepared, and that's why it turned into an incredible opportunity. So I can't agree with you more, Irene. Balance, man, that's a tough topic. I used to feel like I was really, really good at it. And sometimes I feel like I'm good at it. Sometimes I'm not. But I think at the end of the day, we have to be okay with putting work first sometimes, putting family first sometimes, setting an example for others that it's okay to ebb and flow and shift gears from family to personal self to work. It just is what it is, and you have to be okay with not being perfect. I think as women, we strive for perfection all the time, and when you can let go of that and just know that you're doing the right thing at the right time, and putting what needs to be first, then you're going to be a lot happier and a lot more content with your life, and you're going to feel like you have balance. So balance really is being out of balance, I think.
Right.
So
that's a good point, Kate. And I tell my kids that all the time. You know, it's like sometimes the scale's a little tilted, but that's how we do all the stuff we do. You know, we were in New York for our vacation, and I had to take a 2-hour call. And my kids were like, and I'm like, time out, gentlemen. Let's just time out for a second. First of all, where are you? Right? You're on vacation in New York City, and we've been, you know, schlepping around the city all week, right? Don't do it. My little 2 hours on this call is what affords us the opportunity to be in New York for 10 days. So check yourselves. I'm always like, check yourself before you wreck yourself, because it's like, you know, but it's important to them. So I know, and I never apologize for it. I say, this is what I have to do now. And later we will do this. And so I let them know that there's an ebb and a flow. And sometimes the scale is a little tilted. Sometimes it's all about work. Sometimes it's all about you all, you know, sometimes it's all about the other, but it's that, you're right. And it's so expecting to always be balanced, I think is this unrealistic pressure that we put on women, you know, that I just think I just want to, I want to dispel that, right? That we're forcing everyone to have this balance. So Joanna, I want to bring you into the conversation to what Kate just talked about. What do you experience? I mean, are there times when you feel like you don't have balance or you're out of balance? And in those instances, what do you do?
Well, that's a great question. And I couldn't agree more with all of you. You know, balance sometimes is being unbalanced, you know, like Kate said. And so it's important for us to realize that we're not perfect people. We don't live in a perfect world. So we are going to make mistakes, but it's okay to get back up and start all over again. So at first I thought I could do it all, right? I was young, you know, freshly out of college, doing what I love, you know, my career, TV, journalism, you know, sharing stories, telling stories. And then got married, had children, have a child. And then I started having that internal debate. Am I being a good mom? Am I focused only on my career? But my poor child is all day long with the babysitter. You know, what is my role now? So that's when I realized that I couldn't do it all. You know, I cannot manage everything perfect. Something has to give up, and it's okay. Sometimes you need to make choices, like you said your mom did, Joanna. Mm-hmm. So you have to make choices. And I knew that even if I were to leave my field, you know, I needed to be doing something for the community. So we're always telling stories. Either you're in front of a camera writing stories, or you're sharing with the community. So we're always, you know, bringing stories to the community or hearing their stories. So I decided to spend more time with my baby at the time. And then that landed me a job in a you know, field that I wasn't really thinking about, you know, which is public health. And I've been there for so many years. It's been 15 years almost of my life there. But I have grown so much. And obviously in the field where you have to communicate healthcare, you know, how do we do things? How do we become healthy? We're mentioning healthy. How do we do the first, the first years of life to be healthy, pregnant women to be healthy? How are those people with no insurance getting to that level too? So I found a niche that I didn't think before. And that's what I think that's what made me stay for so long, because there's so much need in the community and not a lot of people know where the resources are. So we cannot solve it all, but we can do our part. So balance could be different for everybody. In my case, I managed to do a little bit of everything. I don't do it perfect. I spent a lot of time doing things in the community, especially during the pandemic, responding, during the pandemic, public health. So we had to do a lot in the community, vaccinations and go to different communities. And also, having a family, how do you manage that? Right. So I love the ability to be able to work in the community, but also be able to go to a game for my son now that he's a teenager, that, that he knows that I'm there, that he can say, oh, mom, you're here, you're cheering for me. I'm the crazy lady, say, go son, you can do this. You might hate me for that, but I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. So those are the experiences that I think balance could be sometimes not really balanced, but you do your best you can, the best you can. And priorities matter sometimes. So priorities change. So at this stage in my life, he needed me. And now I'm doing more, in a new role. So he's going to go to college pretty soon. So that will be a different story. But, it's hard to balance, but it's okay. It's okay to not be completely balanced and to pick and choose. That's what makes us different and human.
Right. I love it. Now, Tran, are there times when you kind of feel like, man, I'm not getting this motherhood thing right? Because there were times where I was like, whoo, I've got to really shift a little bit. I would love to hear kind of how you, and not just balance for a family, because there's also things we're passionate about. People are always like, how do you find time to do fashion stuff? How do you find time to, I have to make, because that's my thing. I get, if spa day, I'm a spa girl. If I could just do a spa every week, life would be just perfect for me, right? I don't live in that world. I don't live in that world, but I dream of that world often. Yeah. So for me, I try to get spa days in, and people are always like, oh, I couldn't do it. I couldn't find the time. I would feel too guilty. And I'm like, really? Because I don't feel that. So for me, that's my mental health. That's my check-in with self, where no one needs me, because at the spa, it's me, my feelings, and, the aromas around me. It's wonderful. So Ken, how do you do that? I would love to hear kind of your perspective.
Well, at least several times a day, every week, I feel like my hair is on fire. So I'm still trying to figure this out. I'm literally taking notes, because I'm telling you, this question of how do moms balance work and family is my favorite question to ask people, because it's so hard. It's the hardest job that you'll ever love, right? Because I think we're all day to day, it's crawling to the weekend. And then the next thing you know, the years go by and you're like, how are my twins 8 years old? But anyways, what I have learned over the years, and especially lately, is that I hate to say it, but even though I can multitask, I still feel like I can't multitask well, because you're being torn in so many different directions. And I feel like, for me at least, that you can only do one thing good at a time. So when I'm at work, I give it my all at work. It's like, if I see that phone call coming from the elementary school, then my stomach drops and I'm like, oh my God, brace yourself. Okay. Right. Pivot as quick as you can. Steve, you got this? I don't know if I can do this. I think I have to skip the noon show. I got to go get my kids, but I'll make it for the 4. And that also goes back to having a great supportive work environment too. But I just feel like, when I'm at work, I really give it my all at work. And then when I am done, I go home, and then it is all the kids. So that is where I just kind of try to create that separation, because it's so hard to juggle both at the same time. It really is. And I don't think I do it well. So another thing that I've realized too is have a good support system. Whether that is your bosses at work, which I'm telling you, I'm so blessed to have that. They understand, they get it, they're parents. They know that emergencies happen. And so they, when something happens, they pivot because I need to pivot. And so that is so, so key to having that environment at work. And then also personally, like this morning, as I'm getting ready, I leaned on my neighbor. I said, Tanya, can you please take my kids to school? On Tuesday, my first day back from spring break, I've been off for a week and a half. I haven't driven my car. Guess what? I'm ready to go to work, kids in the back, dog in my lap, because I had a vet appointment too. My car died. I'm like, Tanya, can you take my kids to work? I mean, it's just, you know, I have had to lean on so many people, and it really does take a village to help you get through the day-to-day. And I have learned over the years, you know what? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Because I used to think, oh, no, I'm too proud. I've got this. You know what? No, you know what? If I didn't have the help, I'd fall apart. No, ask.
True. That is so, Tran, music to my ears, let me tell you, because I used to have that where I didn't want people to think, one, I didn't know what I was doing, because I thought, oh, if I ask for help, they're going to think I'm like not the smartest girl in the room, like, you know. And I used to always say, I don't want people to think I'm weak. You know, I don't want them to think, oh, I can't believe she couldn't figure it out for herself. And now I am the first, I'm like, hi, yeah, I'm going to need help today. Yeah, I need somebody to, because I can't be in 4 places at once. I would love to, but I'm just not that magical, you know, and it's so amazing. But I love Tandra's comment that she put in the chat, which is this idea of having a supportive work, right? And organization, just community culture that you work in is so important. And then she says, let's normalize being a committed parent while achieving career goals. You know, and that's something, if that was just kind of our normal, and I don't know why people think that, oh, there's no way that, you know, you shouldn't. I used to have someone, they say, you know, maybe we should not talk about your kids as much, right? Early on in my career, and I was like, what? You know, like, what is that? I don't understand what that means. She didn't have children. That to her was something that, you know, hey, we just need to kind of, you know, she said, let's keep it to work. And I'm like, I'm just telling you right now, I can't do my job without mentioning my children at some point. They are in, you know, they're part of my DNA. This is how I'm made up. And so asking me to do that is like asking me to separate myself from myself. That's not going to work very well for you, you know. And it was a job in a corporate culture. I had to leave shortly thereafter because I thought there is no, because if one of my children gets hurt, guess what? I don't care what we have going on. I have to go. Like it is, you know, deuces and, you know, and so that was something that is very important that, and when we look at work environments that we want to be part of, that culture of support, and as Tandra says, normalizing that, you know, as women, we have all these intersections is very, very important to us. So I want to go back to our audience that's on right now and ask the question, because we're going to pivot into the idea of mentoring and mentorship in our career. So thank you, by the way, to the amazing, I'm getting lost in the amazing comments that are happening in the chat area. You all, I am so thrilled. And also want to ask you, if you have a question for any of our panel members, please put it in the Q&A area. We'll be able to read it and also bring you on live if you would like to ask the question live. So Brent's able to do that. But our second audience poll question is all around mentorship and mentoring. So do you, audience, feel like women need mentors in order to excel in the workplace? Do women need mentors in order to excel in the workplace? So would love to kind of hear, and we'll give it just a few more seconds to keep that poll open. Or can they do it without mentors? And mentorship can be formal, it can be informal, it can just, you know, be getting guidance. So do women need mentors to excel in the workplace? Brent, are we almost done with that poll? Looks like we've got a good, yeah.
Yeah, we've got about 65%. We'll give it a few more seconds here.
Excellent.
Let's see, let's get to 70. Let's get to 70, everybody. Can I hear 70? Do I hear 70? Come on, folks. Do I hear 70? Do I hear 70? I hear 70%. And here's your results.
You're so funny. Thank you so much. Yes. So overwhelmingly, 92% of you feel like women absolutely need mentors in the workplace in order to excel, and 8% of you say no. So let's talk about that for all of you. Would love to start with, this time I'll switch it up a little bit. So Joanna, I'll start with you. Did you have a formal mentor throughout your career? If you would tell us about that experience. And also what inspired you, or who inspired you in your career as you were moving along? So did you have a formal mentor?
Not a formal mentor, but I did have a lot of people along the way that took on their own responsibility, because I was so young when I came to the US, to be there for me. Now I look back and I say, why was she doing that? But then I appreciate so much, because somebody saw that I was a teen, that they probably saw potential that I couldn't even see in myself, and they invested in me. So I applaud all the teachers, because a lot of them do a lot of work more than the classroom. So starting from all my teachers, we have a few that really, really stuck with us. They were part of our, when you graduated, when you went to college, when you got married, when you had your child. So they were kind of part of family at the end of the day. But I look back and I see, wow, they really had the passion to serve and to, be able to support you. So to me, it was the teachers in high school and college. So even when I was doing internships, I know I mentioned those are key for anyone who would like to do any field. We're talking media, but also any field. If you have the opportunity to go and shadow somebody, even if they let you in for a day to kind of see this, that's what you envision in your life, but also when you're ready to take on, a role of an intern, because that's when you really get to do the work, help, and be out there with them and shadow them more and do things. So I was very appreciative of the people along the way that I had when I was an intern. I was just sharing with you, the panelists, and Joanna, before we started, that I found my internship ID from many years ago when I was doing some cleaning. I don't even look the same. I was so young. There was no lighting. My face, you can barely see it. But it was so funny to see it. Then it brings memories, right? It brings memories. So internships were key for me. One of my mentors at the time, the assignment desk editor, he's about to retire now. So I'm going to share my ID with him when I see him at the retirement party. Say, remember this?
That's awesome.
So he's about to retire, and he was along the way sharing stories. I had the privilege also of, when I was an intern, working also with shadowing one of the reporters that was also an instructor, a faculty member of the, Walter Cronkite. So he was also my teacher, my instructor in college, but he was a reporter. So I was able to shadow, and also he allowed me to write the story sometimes for my own, and then going to the audio booth and record it for my own. So those are things that you can only get when you take the opportunities and people are willing to help you with little things here, little things there. So maybe not a formal, like, let me take you on for a year, for 2 years, but every step of the way helps. And you just look at the opportunity every time it comes to you. So that has been my experience. And I'm very grateful for those. Very, very grateful.
Wonderful, Joanna. I see in the chat, I love that. And I love that you shared that, just getting opportunities. Sarah said something in the chat that I think is so wonderful. So Tram, I'll go to you next. But Sarah says, not just kind of mentors, but advocates, right? And also sponsors, and more importantly, champions. So it's not just about people that mentor you. Sometimes it's just about, Tram, you said it earlier, somebody just believing you actually can. Yeah. Like they can see you there even before you can even envision yourself there. I feel that way, with teaching at ASU. Someone's like, oh, you'd be an amazing, professor. And I'm like, really? Like, you're like their children? Like, are you sure? I'm like, and I had not seen that vision for myself. But, someone with a champ and to sponsor you, to say, I'm going to introduce you to the dean of that college and, just get the conversation started. And of course I did what I do, which is go in because I was already ready and prepared. But when someone sponsors you in that way and just co-signs on your ability, it's powerful. So Tram, I would love to hear about kind of mentors, advocates, sponsors, champions that you had throughout your career.
Yeah, that's so true. I have so many things in my head right now that I want to talk about. But yes, throughout my time at KBC, my biggest thing, and again, my advice to folks who are getting their start, you know, their internships, their foot in the door, what have you, is make yourself heard. I mean, yes, you have to have that work ethic and that drive to begin with, but you also have to make yourself seen and heard. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that just, you know, my natural social self, like, yeah, I would, when I pass by somebody down the hall, still to this day, you say hi. You make eye contact and you say hi. It's that simple. And because I developed that kind of, you know, relationship, and I kind of globbed on to certain reporters, certain anchors, and they saw how hard I worked. So they, you know, when I would ask them questions, you know, how do you do this? What do you think of my reel? Can you watch my reel? Do you mind? I mean, it's a two-way street. And if you approach, you know, if you are humble, you work hard, you approach them with vulnerability and the willingness to learn, the doors will open. It's a beautiful thing. And I just, you know, I was so blessed and so lucky to just have those people take the time to teach me and educate me. I remember on my reel, there was one anchor who, you know, I adored, and he really, Jeff Michaels. And he, you know, he held my hand through the way, but he looked at my reel. I was at a track meet. I think it was 90 plus degrees. And I was wearing a dark brown suit. And it looked like I had just come out of the jungle. I mean, it was so not attractive. And he told me, and that's another thing too, be willing to accept the criticism.
Yep.
And I was like, please tell me. To this day, I'm like, please tell me. And he was like, you need to dress for the occasion. You look so out of place. You don't fit. It's not the right environment for a suit. You should be wearing, like, you know, a polo or a t-shirt and some jeans or something. But, you know, it's all those little things, and those people who are so willing to be open and honest with you because you've allowed them to, that it just still sticks with you. But yeah, I've had wonderful people, from executive producers at KBC to the anchors to the reporters there. Then when I went to Columbus, Ohio, the assistant news director and the news director, and the assistant news director, by the way, used to be a reporter, a fantastic reporter. And they were the ones who believed in me, and they were the ones who gave me that first shot on the desk. And, you know, fast forward to now, it's interesting because I feel like after so much time at Channel 12 that, you know, when you're young, you worry about yourself, right? You're trying to get your life together. You're trying to be taken seriously, be credible, work your craft. And now I feel like, okay, I've worked my craft, right? I know how to do my job, right? After 25 plus years. And when I come across very, very few interns, and it still amazes me, but when I come across very few interns, unfortunately, who make their voices heard, I love to help them. I wish they would come to me and say, you know what, can you take a look at my reel? Can you let me know, you know, what pointers or what have you? I love to help. I mean, originally I got in this business because I wanted to make a difference in people's lives through storytelling and fundraising. When there's a tragedy in their life, let's get the community to help, right? I've done all that. I still enjoy it. But now, lately, now that I'm in my 40s and I've, you know, kind of been around the block, I feel like I want to be in a position where I am a mentor now to people who are coming up, right? And I even see it with some of our producers who are so young, and the ones who are, you can tell they are passionate. And I love that. And it's almost like, I almost feel like, you know, the assistant news director who saw the potential in me to give me a shot at the desk.
That's right.
I feel like, you know what? I see the potential in you, that you can go further. Not only, for some, they can go further than this market, but like further than the show that they're at, right? Because everybody starts at a certain position. In this particular case for the producers, they're going to start at a show that is not seen as much, but it's like, I see the potential that they have to work on a bigger, more visible show. And so, it's these conversations that I have with this younger generation and a little bit newer to the station. And I feel so touched and that I've made a difference when they have taken my advice, and that they really, really appreciate my words of advice.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel so good. It really, really, it validates even more what I'm doing and why I'm doing it.
That is so powerful, Tram, and I agree with you 100,000%. And I've got one of my mentees from, oh my gosh, Tina, it's been a while. Tina Brown is actually on here, and I remember when she came to me and said, I need some guidance. I'm trying to get into this area, how do I do it? How do I navigate these waters? How do I meet these people? How do I get into their circle? And to see her now, right? And I'm so tickled because, and again, just listening to, just taking the advice and saying, okay, I'll do this. I'll apply for this board. I'll volunteer here. And it's not always about a job. Sometimes it's about sweat equity. It's about putting in the time to volunteer for something. And so when I see it now, it's so fulfilling to me. And that is actually what fills my cup up, knowing that I've helped move people to where they need to be to grow and just be their best selves. It's really powerful. So Kate, I want to bring you in because I would love to hear from you. What are some simple steps? Tram talked about having, and so for those of you that are maybe looking for a mentor, Tram is saying if she has the time, she'll be happy to look at your reel. So those of you that are thinking about being in this area and arena, please take her up on it. But Kate, how does someone cultivate? Like, what are some simple steps if you're like, man, I really do need a mentor? How did you do it? How did you cultivate a mentor-mentee relationship? And what are kind of some simple steps some of our audience members could take now to start that and find their next mentor?
Well, sure. Great question, Joanna. And I appreciate you not making me answer the same question that Tram did. She was so eloquent at explaining how important that is. But I think at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be a formal mentorship. It's could be as simple as reaching out to someone for career advice, someone you know, someone you don't know, but not being too shy to speak up, raise your hand, ask for help. We've heard that theme throughout today. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and know that you're worthy of someone taking the time to give you advice. It can be formal or informal. When I was new in my career, I think I mentioned I started shadowing a reporter at my hometown station that was down the street from my house. So that reporter went on to become a weekend anchor here in Phoenix and was the person who helped me get that job at Fox 10 as a producer when I was still in college. So that's how important making those connections, getting advice from people who you admire their work. I think it's really helpful when you're reaching out to someone, you explain why you chose to reach out to them. What is it about their work that you admire or you appreciate, or what is it that you want to learn from them? That makes a huge difference because oftentimes those very talented people get lots of requests for mentorship or for advice. And if you show that going the extra mile, as Trey mentioned, when an intern comes in and they are pitching story ideas and they're present and participating, it makes you more eager to want to help them move all along their career path. So I think demonstrating why you think this person is good at what they do, and showing that there's a little substance and context there for you is really important. There's lots of ways to get, paired up with mentors through Arizona State, and I know other universities and programs, but it doesn't always have to be some formal program that comes and pairs you with someone. I think the best mentorships are the ones that sort of happen organically, because there's something about this person that you want to learn from. And I had two great mentors when I was transitioning from being a news director to a general manager, John Meisner, which I know some of the Cronkite students would know, and then Doug Armstrong, who was a former general manager of mine. So those two mentors for me exposed me to things I otherwise would not have been exposed to. And that was huge in me being able to be prepared for opportunities that would come up and come my way, and help me as I progressed in my career. So I think that's where specific mentorships can be really, really advantageous, is when you can find a mentor who's going to expose you to something that you need to learn so that you can take that next step in your career.
Excellent. And that is something, you said something that's so key to striking up an authentic mentor-mentee relationship, which is, I cannot tell you all this enough. Please do your homework. If you say, I want to reach out to Tram, I want to reach out to Joanna, I want to reach out to Kate, know a little bit about them, know their background, know their expertise, know their areas that they can help you grow in. Don't just like go, I need a mentor. I need someone to just like make my life wonderful, which I get a lot of, which I'm like, okay, what part of your life? Like what, and I just like be specific, because again, these are busy people. And I love the ones that are like, listen, I need about an hour of your time. I just want to ask you about sitting on the board for da-da-da. I'm like, perfect. I can introduce you. So I'm already prepared, right? I'll introduce you to this person. I'll tell you how to get on the board. Here's some events they have coming up, so that it's productive time. Because the kiss of death to me was when someone's like, can I just pick your brain? I'm like, I don't have enough brain cells left for you to pick at anything. Like, you know what I mean? So I'm always like, be very specific about what you're asking the person to help you with. For like a Tram, can you look at my reel? That's something very concrete, right? It has a lifespan to it, a time span to it. Yep, I can absolutely in this time take a look at that, give you some feedback, and then it's done. It's not this like ambiguous, has no beginning, has no end. You're not really sure at the end of the day, was this a successful relationship? Did you get what you needed out of it? So that's important to do some homework. So what Kate, you're saying resonates with me and it's very powerful. Kate, can you talk a little bit? I know you guys have some internships there at the station. For some of our students that are on, could you talk a little bit about the amazing, amazing internship program that you guys have there at the station?
Yeah, so we're blessed to be able to have paid internships pretty much year round here at 12 News. We recruit for each semester, and generally we house about 5 interns. It's been ebbing and flowing because of the pandemic, but we're back up to full staff. And then our company, our corporation, also has a handful of internship programs that they offer, that they place at the station, and they're all paid as well. But what I think 12 News does a wonderful job at is really exposing the interns to all aspects of what you would do in a newsroom. I think one of the misconceptions we have when we go into college is we think we know what we want to do. And we have to be open to finding another path, something that maybe we're more passionate about, something that's going to fill our cup in a different way. I wanted to be a reporter in the field. That's what I wanted to do. And I found out that I was really good with people, and I really enjoyed building and creating the show. And thankfully, I was willing to follow that path and not feel like I was giving something up, but really just recognize what you're good at as you're going through the process. So I think that it's really important that we're open-minded and we're not so committed to this perfect picture that we've crafted for ourselves about what our path's going to look like. I loved when Joanna was talking about how her path took a different route. You stayed home with your kids for a little bit, and then you re-entered the workforce into something that you find very rewarding and valuable in your life. And I hear so many of those incredible stories, and it's wonderful to see that we can make a difference in so many different ways. We can reinvent ourselves. We can create new paths and journeys for ourselves. But you have to be open to that, right?
Absolutely. And that's the thing. And we reinvent ourselves all the time. And, you know, for women, I think that sometimes we go down a path because someone said that that's what we should be doing. Oh, you'd be so great at whatever it is. And I think early on in life, I learned to be brave enough to go, but I don't like that. That's not what moves me. That's because at the end of the day, think about this. You have to find the drive. We've been talking about drive this whole time to push through difficult times. If you are not passionate about something, best believe when it gets tough, it's going to be tough and painful. You know what I mean? Because you're doing something that you're not passionate about, that you don't love, that doesn't fill your cup. And now it's hard, and now you got to get over that thing. You're like, I really don't want to get to the other side because I didn't want to do this to begin with. So for women, I'm like, listen to that intrinsic, voice we have that says, you love this. Do more of that. Do more of what you love and get closer to that authentic self, right? And get closer to that version of yourself as opposed to the version of yourself other people have created, right? Because it's convenient, because that's what they see without knowing what your heart is. And, my mom used to always say, if you do more of what you love, you'll never feel like you're working. And that's why I always, my kids have this thing where, my door's closed and they'll go, I thought you said you were working. And I'm like, I am working. They're like, the amount of laughing coming out of that office, I seriously doubt you were working. I'm like, I promise you, it's work, but it's work I love. So it's, it's joyful work. And that's, I think if you do more of that, you'll find that you're really kind of just feeling full, right? Because you're working, but you're also being fed at the same time. So Joanna, I would love for you to just talk a little bit about, what are some simple steps? And I'll ask that again, because I think it's really important when we talk about cultivating a mentor-mentee relationship, or even looking for folks that can be advocates for us or co-sponsor us. Even with your new role, how did you do that? How did you take those steps to really kind of find a good mentor? And what does that cultivation look like?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Mentors are great. I'm just gonna plug a little bit for the Arizona Latino Media Association. That one of the things that keep me on board is specifically working with high school students that want to go into the field of journalism, and they want to do either writing or producing, or reporters or anchors or sportscasters, whatever they want to do, and expose them to people, like we have here, our panelists. So one of the things that we do is a yearly workshop, free workshop, a whole day at ASU, the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. And we just celebrated our 24th annual high school workshop. So it was amazing. Next year is going to be the 25th. So hopefully the pandemic will be behind us and we'll be able to do something bigger and better. But it's an amazing opportunity to meet people like Tram or Kate or any other people that come along the way, and they have those conversations with students. And we also had a mentor-mentee match that because of the pandemic, we had to do things a little bit different. But we have been able to walk along some of those students that graduated high school and they went to college and they're in this field. They want to, have one-on-one with you, meet every once in a while, review their scripts, maybe review the reel that they have. Or some people want to go into PR, which is similar to what I'm doing. And it's always great to have that opportunity to see both sides. Now, one thing is going to be all you see. What you see on camera, it takes a lot of people, a lot of manpower to make it happen for 30 minutes. And it's almost 24-hour, job to make one 30-minute show. And probably you all know that. And, because it's so many people involved. So there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of ways that you can get plugged into just have to go to those either nonprofits or those, in college or high school. Talk to your teachers, ask them, I want to do this. Who do you recommend that I talk to? They have the connections. A lot of these are high school students who are being brought by their own, advisors, because the students alone, they don't know these things exist. Mm-hmm. So it's good to start with your, in your school, talk to your advisor. This is what I like to do, but I'm not sure. Can I talk to somebody? And they can plug you in. So I'm excited to just mention that and be sure that there's many of other agencies and nonprofits that do the same thing, either in journalism or broadcasting or any other field. So in my case, working in the public health department, I was doing for many, many years communications and marketing and being the Spanish-speaking PIO, or public information officer. So my experience in the media helped me provide something that they were interested in covering. So instead of just calling and say, will you come and cover this, either this event or we think this is a story for you, I had to have like all the pieces for them, make it easy for them. And thank God I had really great relationships in the Spanish media. And so we were able to work together and partner in so many things. Preparedness is key. We do a preparedness and wellness expo every year. So, and the media is a sponsor because we're trying to bring those communities that may not have other options. So education, talking to people, knocking on doors, asking questions. Don't be afraid. The worst they can say is no.
Right.
But you didn't lose anything. Just go and knock on another door and ask the same question. So in my role right now, we are surrounded by very, very important people that really care for the community. So there are a lot of women that have positions, that are leading, and they care. They care for the community. They're not only sitting behind a desk, but we're doing work, and it takes time. May not be on the news every day, but the work that we do makes a very big impact in the health of our community. So I'm very proud to work with the department, but also know that we have the support system in place to help us. And mental health is key. So it's not work nonstop because we're in a pandemic. So I appreciate that from my department, that they also want to take care of us. If you're sick, stay home. Don't be afraid to say, I need a mental break. It's okay. So that's key. Sometimes we don't see that in a lot of jobs. Right. So in that regards, I really love what I do because still working in the community, plugging in with leaders, and also getting mentors, even for myself, in my own job. Things, people that are doing this for many years. So why can I learn? Why do you do this the way you do it? But you may have your own interest and your own desire to do things because you're built in a different way. So it's okay. Get out of the, kind of the one, it's only one size fits all. Right. You have specific gifts that you can use and for your own benefit and the community.
I love that. Thank you so much, Joanna. I want to just also echo something that a comment that Martin just made, which I think is so, so important. Thank you for that, Martin, which is this idea that he says, I believe it doesn't matter your age. We may think it is only the young, right? The new and young that require mentors and guidance, but it can be at any age. And that's the thing that I think is most important. Look for I always say, look for your aspirational self, look for who it is you want to become. I always look for people that are doing more and, higher positioned and in a different area. And one way to do that, I challenge all of you to find an opportunity to be a servant leader. I think oftentimes we think that our mentors are going to be within our work environment. Sometimes you're going to have to go out, right, to come back around, to come back in, and so it's really important that you're also giving something, because there's something to be said about somebody who's already busy, a working professional that volunteers for a cause, for an organization. That's a position that I think when you think about, and then when opportunities come about, they look to that. They think, oh, wow, this person also does this in addition to their job and mentoring someone else. That's amazing. So I think that we just have to really kind of think about other ways that we can position ourselves so that we're giving, right? But if you go into it with, I need to get this thing, I need to get, that's really the wrong kind of spirit, I'll call it, of entering the relationship. So Tram, I have a question for you. 25-year-old Tram. 25-year-old Tram, right?
That was an eternity ago.
I know it wasn't. Sister, I'm right there with you. This is our year though, Tram. This is 74 is our year on the calendar. So, but I want to just let you know and hear from you. What advice, if you met your 25-year-old self, 25-year-old Tram, what advice would you give her?
Oh, this is such a tough question, but I think I'd give a lot, but I think the biggest thing is enjoy the ride. And I don't think I did that enough because I was so laser focused on the finish line. Yeah. And for me, the finish line was to get back home to LA. And I just, it was just trying to work so hard and the grind and the day-to-day and you just get so stuck in the weeds that you don't take a step back enough to see where you're at and enjoy your surroundings. Because here's the thing, you know, in our business, you always go to a small market, right? You go to a small market, you pay your dues, you make your mistakes, and you work your way back in. So, you know, and I always thought, oh my God, I just want to work in like one small market and hopefully make the jump back to LA. And I remember one of my mentors who told me not to wear that dark brown suit. He said, no, you need these smaller markets to really work your craft and do all your mistakes, get it out, because you don't want to bomb in a big market. And so, you know, when I lived in 2 places in Florida and when I lived in Columbus, Ohio, I mean, you know, it's like you work hard. I didn't have weekends off, never had weekends off, but, you know, Wednesday through Sunday. And on my days off, you know, I kind of dabbled here and there, but to really, and again, it also goes back to being a reporter, right? Exploring what's around you. Right. I think so many times you live in your little bubble. And as a reporter, you should know where these places are. You should know, you know, what is around you and explore. And so I don't think I did that enough. I still look back my days in Florida and I thought, man, I should have taken a trip to the Caribbean. I was right there, you know, or I should have gone to the Keys. I was right there. And I mean, now it's like, it feels like a monumental task to get on that side of the country, especially with 2 kids now. But, you know, it's the things that you look back that when you were in a small market or whatever, you know, paying your dues, that now it's like, well, I probably wouldn't go back to Florida again unless I was going to Disney World, you know, and now Columbus, Ohio, I'm not going to go back. I mean, even though my in-laws are there, but they want to come out here. So I'm not going to go back. So there's so many other places that I wish I would have gone and really dived in and enjoyed the moment, because you may not get that chance back again.
Oh, so true. So true. Thank you, Trev. Kate, what about you? 25-year-old Kate, you meet her today. What do you say to her?
It's almost identical to Tram. Time is such a precious commodity. Yeah. And once you have kids, I feel like it just goes so fast. So enjoying the process, enjoying the learning and the growth, because that time is such a precious commodity. So, you know, we only get one chance at life, right? So we need to enjoy the journey. And so I would have just enjoyed the journey a little bit more. But one of the best pieces of advice I got, probably about 25 years old, was the assistant news director at my station here in Phoenix at the time had told me that she wasn't a mind reader. So if I had interest in a job or a role or a stretch assignment or anything like that, I needed to speak up. And that always stuck with me. And it served me well. It's so tough when you have a job and you'll be asked to state your career intentions, and you're like, oh, well, I want my boss's job. How do I tell my boss that I want your job, right? But you have to be really comfortable with owning what you want to do in life and owning your path. And so that was the best advice that was given to me at about 25, and I'm really thankful. And I try and share that with every. I talk to a lot of students. With every student I meet, I tell them, you know, when you get into your job and your career, it's really important that you're vocal about what you want to do, what you want to try. If you want to do something different, if you want experience on something else, you have to speak up, because your supervisors, your bosses, your managers, they are not mind readers.
Right. I love that. That's wonderful advice, actually. It's like, and it's also the same in relationships, you know, it's like that those are all right. It's like, I can't read your mind. How would I know that? Like, you've got to articulate it, right? Tell me what it is you want, you know, not what you think I want to hear. Tell me what it is you want in this position for your time here, you know? So that's excellent advice. Mine would be, you know, to my 25-year-old self, oh my God, take a breath. Like, just breathe. You know, I was sharing with the ladies before we got on, you know, I was so like, oh, by the time I'm 26, by the time I'm 27, and when I'm 30, I'm going to like take over the world. It was like but I had so much anxiety around, I know I chuckle now, like 25, lady, you were a baby. Like, you know, it's like 25, that's so young. But I had so much pressure, right? And similar to you two, it's like, just breathe. It'll be okay. You're going to make a ton of mistakes. You think these are big mistakes. Wait till, you know, there are bigger stakes involved, you know? And just to breathe and just to relax and just to, you know, I found, believe it or not, at 25, I wasn't having a lot of fun, you know, because I was so like serious about, you know, being successful and, you know, I don't want to, you know, let my mom down. I want to be successful. I wasn't having a good time, you know, and it's like, when you just stop and breathe and go, you know, this is kind of fun. Like, you know, I've got youth on my side. Let me do what I do, but also have a little fun in the process. So, okay, Joanna, last one for you. 25-year-old self. You meet your 25-year-old self. What do you tell her?
Well, I think we're all on the same page, but I also will say to myself, do not be afraid. You know, if you fail or if there is, you know, there are many opportunities that you're not going to do right, but get up again and do it again. And that's what I tell my kid now. He's a teen. So enjoy the ride. Right. I mean, once you're out of high school, you will wish that you will go back because those were the best times. Right. And you think that this is hard and you're done and I'm so out of here. You will regret it later because that will be your best time probably. You're not an adult yet. So enjoy the moment. So I will tell myself, enjoy and don't be afraid. Ask questions. Ask. The worst I can say is no. But then don't be afraid. And I feel like that was one of my things. I could see it as a weakness, but do not let that say, well, I'm not going to ask any more questions because I'm young. Nobody pays attention to me. They think I'm not important. You got to ask. Don't be afraid.
Right.
Those people may help you, may not, but they keep going, knocking on doors until you get an answer.
Right. What's the saying? Say, if you don't ask, you won't GET. So like, if you don't ask, you're not going to get. So like, you gotta, and it's so funny because I have a son who's a freshman at ASU and he's like, oh, I can't wait to be done. I'm like, dude, like there's only work after this or grad school or like, I'm gonna need you to just pump the brakes. Like go to, and he's like, and I'm like, go to the parties, go to the events, go to every football game, lay on the grass. I'm just like, whatever, but like, enjoy this moment, enjoy this ride and give yourself, I think Tandra says it, give yourself grace. Like, you know what? And so sometimes when I ask him, what are you doing? He thinks I'm like trying to say, you better be doing something academic, you know? It's like, and I go, it's okay to say, Mom, I'm not doing a darn thing today. Like I'm exhausted. I'm eating pizza, you know, sitting on the floor of my dorm room, staring into space or whatever it is. And so I'm like, I give you permission to like, be okay with not doing anything in this moment and not to be, you know, because I was that way. I was so like, oh my gosh, everything has to have a purpose and meaning. Sometimes you just got to be still, you know, sometimes you just got to sit and enjoy that pizza on the floor of your dorm room and have no plans for the rest of the day. So
even now,
I know. Sam, I was going to say that, but I didn't want anyone to think like, man, there are days literally where it's a pajama day. And I am not proud of those days, but let me tell you, I am Netflixing it with, you know, with my biscotti and coffee on the living room floor, and it's amazing. And at the end of it, I'm like, God, that was really kind of glorious. I need to do that more often.
Yes.
So yes, even now, I give you permission to sit on the floor and eat your pizza and have a good time. So I want to wrap this up with just last kind of nuggets to leave with our audience as we kind of transition to see if we have any questions and bring in Tandra back to do our closing remarks. So I would love to hear what advice and we'll start with actually Kate, what advice you have for others as they kind of explore their career, they move throughout their career, they start their career. What advice do you have for them for just kind of setting off in a successful direction?
I think my biggest advice would be, you don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to, it doesn't have to go, I think I mentioned this before, as you had pictured at age 18 or 19 or 20 or even 25. that I think someone just said in the chat that it's, where did it go? Something about reinventing yourself. We can always, it was advice that they would give to their 25-year-old self. If you fail, or if it's not something that you thought it was going to be, you always have the opportunity to reinvent yourself or chart a new path. You know, we're all on a journey, and we have to just enjoy the ride. So I think that's really important. Don't be afraid to ask for help, to reach out to others whose careers you admire or you would like to emulate. Don't be shy. It's really important to lean on other people and allow other people to lean on you as well. I think that's equally as important, is to give space for others to share, to listen to their struggles and what they're dealing with. You can learn a lot just from listening to other people's experiences and their struggles, and just being a good listener for them.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Kate. Joanna, we'll bring you in. I would love to kind of just hear your advice in terms of career, and either starting a career, moving through a career, in terms of heading in a successful direction.
Thank you. I guess it's a little combination of everything that we have discussed, because I feel like when you're young, you don't know where you're heading. But still, you know, now in this time in our lives, we're still learning. We're not done. We're still growing. We're still knocking on doors. I'm still need mentors, you know, for my own self, especially jumping into a new position, a new leadership role. Then I will have to like, okay, I think I know what I'm doing, but let me check. Let me double check with someone else that has passed through here. So I do not be afraid to ask, you know, talk to your friends. You know, it doesn't have to be like a formal, but it also have to be someone that you trust. If you trust, when we grow older, I'm becoming more like my mom. It's hard to say it, but now I go back and say, Mom, what would you have done in this situation? You know, and when you're young, you don't think you need your parents sometimes for advice, but you get to a point like, oh, that was very smart. I remember that. That is a phrase that I used to hear from my dad or my mom, or someone that you love, grandparents or friend or teacher. So always, you know, consider that. Listen to the people that you trust, that have the best interest for you. Knock on doors. Do not be afraid to ask, and you know, continue to grow. Grow is by asking questions, and maybe if you fail, get up again and do it all over again, and surround yourself with people that will believe in you and trust and not be putting you down. So reputation takes a long way to build, and in a moment, a bad decision can destroy the reputation, and that's all we have. So in a field where you have to have, you know, a good reputation, it's important to be surrounded by people that you rely on, that you trust, that they also have the best interest for you.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Tram, we're going to have you go last. But before I do, I just want to read a comment from Dr. Lauren Taverez. Hi, Lauren. Good to see you here. And she just talks about the idea that soaring expectations are admirable and can also undermine our ability to enjoy and care for ourselves. It's so true. And I love that she says it's kind of a tricky balance, right? It's a little nuanced balance, and it's always in flux. And I love that, right? So we're like, I want to have fun, you know, I want to have these expectations, but I still want to kind of care for myself. And I think for all of us, like I feel like a little juggler sometimes, you know, I'm just juggling all those balls. And I always say, someone says, oh, I bet you never drop those. I'm like, oh, I dropped them. The goal is to make sure they don't break. So, you know, that's my whole thing, because some of my balls are very precious, right, that I'm juggling. Yes. Some of them are teen feelings. Some of them are, you know, so the goal is I'm good. I'm not that good. I'm going to drop some of them. The goal is just to make sure they don't break. They don't shatter. I don't shatter any emotions, any feelings, you know, so that's always my goal, is never to not drop the ball, just not break them in the process. So Tram, I'm going to bring you in, and I would love if you could share with us your closing remarks and advice for those that are on the call today.
Yeah. I have a couple, and I love what both Kate and Joanna had said earlier, and I would echo that in a heartbeat. My big thing, and it's what I've done, and lived through over the years is just to work hard. That's where it starts, is right there. You have to work hard. Nothing is going to be handed to you on a silver platter. And you know what? Some people are lucky that it is handed to them. But I think with that is the lack of respect. And I think that when you work hard and you walk the talk and you know from experience what you're doing, that level of respect really goes a long way. And you can't argue with that because you've been there, done that. The next thing would be, and we talked about this too, be seen and be heard. You have to just what Kate was saying, you have to speak up. And you know what? After all these years, finally in my 40s, I feel like I'm finally starting to speak up. You know, I was raised by a full-on tiger mom. And in the Asian culture, you know, you just work hard, you put your nose to the ground and you don't argue and you don't complain and you just do your job. And I've done that for so many years. And then finally, again, I think you just enter a chapter in your life where you've done a lot and you've lived through a lot of experiences. And now I'm finally, for the first time, I hate to say it, I feel like I'm finally finding my voice. But it took a while. I would also say lean in. And, that's something where we all, through our lives, come to a point, an intersection where this feels uncomfortable. And I'll be honest with you, Joanna, I shared this with you prior to this panel. Kate, I shared with you prior to this panel. I said, I feel a little misplaced. I feel like I want to hear more from Kate. I want to hear more from Joanna. I am used to I'm used to asking the questions and being the moderator. But sometimes as uncomfortable as it feels, you have to lean in, because afterwards, I will tell you after this, I will feel so much better. And I did it. I did something that, I don't always do.
Right.
And it just adds to your repertoire, right? And so, it's just one of those things where I'm still learning that. I'm still learning to lean in. And finally, I think, and again, we talked about this, finding that mentor, that ally, or that confidant. Mm-hmm. And that is huge. That, I think, can make or break your work environment, because we all get frustrated. We all have problems. We all have issues. And I think it's one of those things where when you can find somebody to just lean on, whether it's just, talking about it, that's therapy in and of itself, or just asking, like, what is the resolution? Here's the problem. What is the resolution? I think it's one of those things where that can just help you mentally get through. And we've all hit those roadblocks where it's like, this is not going how I want it to go. Right. So, I just, and I'm so fortunate to have those people at 12 News. And I'm not just saying that, and again, I truly am not just saying that because Kate is here, but I have learned that, she is one of them that I feel like not only lately have I had the strength and confidence to speak up, but I feel blessed that I can speak up to somebody who will listen. Mm-hmm. And there's another person too, our assistant news director, Ivan. I love him to pieces. And I feel like he is somebody where if I've got an issue, if something went down, all hell's breaking loose, whatever, I come straight to his office. Right. And it's just that relationship and that bond that I really appreciate that gets me through. And I had one more, but I forgot. But I just want to say, awesome. As uncomfortable as I felt before this, I loved this. And I'm honored and I'm humbled to be around such wonderful, strong women with truly grit and grace. I mean, I love that theme because it is so true. And it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to still be learning, because it's so nice to know that I'm not alone, that we're not alone, that we're all trying to navigate through this.
That's right. That is so, and I want to give a shout out and Tandra probably remembers the name. Sorry, I forgot the name, but there was an education committee member that said the grit and grace piece when we were in our last meeting. I'm like, yes, that is what this audacious group of women are doing. They're doing it with a little, like we're grinding through, but so gracefully. And, I have to tell you, Tram, and I told you this, you are worthy to be at this table. When we talk about leadership, you are leading without even knowing you're leading. You're leading by being. And sometimes it's in that I think is so powerful. There's such a glorious just position. And I think it's wonderful because you inspire so many people. Like I said, when they see you, just like you were that little girl watching the news, now people get to watch you, and you, just by being who you are, make it possible for them. So I just want to honor you. And that's why I said, you got this, girl. You are right where you belong. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
I am so grateful. Thank you for allowing me to guide our conversation today. To Kate Morris, to Joanna Molina, to Tram Mai, a gracious thank you from Diversity Leadership Alliance. We could not do this work without the contribution of your time and your talent. And thank you, everyone saying the same in the chat, for sharing your true authentic selves, and for being so transparent, and for being so honest and available. So thank you to all of you. I would love to bring back now to the screen, if you would, our amazing Education Committee Chair, Tandra Richardson, to give us some closing remarks and to thank a few sponsors. So thank you again, Tandra.
Thank you, Joanna. And I just want to echo all of Joanna's sentiments. This was such a powerful workshop. I do actually plan to go back and review the recording and go through the chat, as I often do, to make sure there wasn't anything that was missed. So thank you all so much. Just as Joanna stated, the work that we do here at DLA would not be possible without the important contributions from our volunteers, sponsors, and my fellow board of director members. I want to give some recognition to a few key people that were responsible for today's program. First, I want to give a shout out to Tish Cheatham. She's one of our brand new education committee members. She's not here with us today because her daughter's actually getting married today, but she is the one that came up with that grit and grace theme, and it's so perfect. And you all demonstrated it here today through your stories, so thank you for that. Also, a thank you goes out to our amazing DLA Board of Directors for their continued guidance and leadership of the organization over the past 20 years. Thank you to my committee members who are responsible for planning the monthly workshops. A very special thank you to Dr. Brent Scholar, who produces these webinars. Also, Jeff Pudwell, another new education committee member who is on today and working behind the scenes. Brent is responsible for all of the technical aspects, including editing, and then to Maria Radloff of Via Maria, our unofficial webmaster who places all video content on our DLA YouTube page. We would not be able to do the work we do without the support of our amazing sponsors that help to underwrite programs such as the webinar session you attended today. Thank you to Mayo Clinic, and also a very special thank you to the Tegna Foundation, Channel 12, for awarding DLA a programming grant. Special thank you to my fellow DLA board member, Mrs. Kate Morris, the general manager at Channel 12, and one of our fantastic panelists today. Thank you, Kate, for your unwavering support. I'll turn it over to you now, Brent.
Thank you very much, Tandra. And everyone, if you've enjoyed today's webinar, like we've seen all the thank you and everything for our panelists. Thank you so much. Actually, let's give a big thank you to Joanna for moderating our session today and adding in her input, right, with her grit and grace that she has, as well as Joanna and Tram. And Tram, you do belong here. You've been with us before in the past, and you always do a wonderful job. We're so happy to have you. And of course, to Kate as well. So if you want to keep these going, they are, of course, always free. And your donations can help us continue to make that happen. So please take a look at our website where you can find us under support. DLA is a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and your tax donations may be tax deductible. Please consult your tax advisor. Now, what do we have coming up? In April, on the 21st, we are going to have Dr. Jeff McGee join us for Closing the Racial Leadership Gap. That link for registration is open and will be going into our chat very soon by Jeff. And thank you again, Jeff, for being here today. So please join us then. Also, we'll be taking a break in May. And then you can see that we also have our other dates coming up in June, August, September. First announcement, October 12th through the 14th, our annual conference will be going on. So mark that on your calendars. And then, of course, our November program. And with that, I'll say back to you, Tandra.
Thank you, Brent. Well, another special thank you to today's webinar panelists, Kate Morris, Joanna Molina, Tram Mai, our esteemed moderator, Joanna Deshay. We're humbled and grateful for your contribution. A very special thank you to all of you, our attendees, for your time and attention today. Thank you for joining us. Take care of yourself and each other and enjoy the rest of your day.